श्लोकेर भक्तिर्भवतिर्नैष्टिकीर. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 26, Verse 61. Manasas-chandrama jato buddhir-buddhir-giram pati ahankaras-tatho rudras chitam chaityas-tatho bhavat. Manasas-chandrama jato buddhir-buddhir-giram pati ahankaras-tatho rudras chitam chaityas-tatho bhavat. Manasas-chandrama jato buddhir-buddhir-giram pati ahankaras-tatha rudro chitam chaityas-tatho bhavat. Transliteration. Manasa, from the mind. Chandrama, the moon. Jataha, appeared. Buddhihi, intelligence. Buddhe, from intelligence. Giram, Pati, the lord of speech, Brahma. Ahankara, the false ego. Tataha, then. Rudra, Lord Shiva. Chitam, consciousness. Chaitya, the deity presiding over consciousness. Tatha, then. Abhavat, appeared. Translation. After the mind, the moon appeared. The intelligence appeared next. And after intelligence, Lord Brahma appeared. Then the false ego appeared, and then Lord Shiva. And after the appearance of Lord Shiva came consciousness and the presiding deity over consciousness. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The moon appeared after the appearance of the mind, and this indicates that the moon is the presiding deity of the mind. Similarly, Lord Brahma appearing after intelligence is the presiding deity of intelligence. And Lord Shiva, who appears after false ego, is the presiding deity of false ego. In other words, it is indicated that the moon god is in the mode of goodness, whereas Lord Brahma is in the mode of passion and Lord Shiva is in the mode of ignorance. The appearance of consciousness after the appearance of false ego indicates that from the beginning, material consciousness is under the mode of ignorance, and that one therefore has to purify himself by purifying his consciousness. This purificatory process is called Krishna consciousness. As soon as the consciousness is purified, the false ego disappears. Identification of the body with the self is false identification or false ego. Lord Chaitanya confirms this in his Shikshashtaka. He states that the first result of chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, is that dirt is cleared from the consciousness or the mirror of the mind, and then at once the blazing fire of material existence is over. The blazing fire of material existence is due to false ego. But as soon as the false ego is removed, one can understand his real identity. At that point, he is actually liberated from the clutches of Maya. As soon as one is freed from the clutches of false ego, his intelligence also becomes purified, and his mind is always engaged upon the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared on the full moon day as Gora Chandra, or the spotless transcendental moon. The material moon has spots on it, but the transcendental moon, Gora Chandra, there are no spots. In order to fix the purified mind in the service of the Supreme Lord, one has to worship the spotless moon, Gora Chandra. Those who are materially passionate, or those who want to exhibit their intelligence for material advancement in life, are generally worshippers of Lord Brahma, and persons who are in gross ignorance of identifying with the body worship Lord Shiva. Materialists like Hiranyakashipu and Ravana are worshippers of Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva. But Prahlada and other devotees in the service of Krishna consciousness worship the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathamritam Tam Sajeevam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhambitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Happy New Year. Um, thank you all so much for joining and helping me and helping all of us start off the new year with your company and in the company of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a beautiful thing in this new year to be reinvigorating, re-promising our commitment to the Srimad Bhagavatam, to learning more about Krishna wherever we are at in this journey. So thank you all so much for joining me. Today we will be continuing our discussion on the elements of material nature and their presiding deities, as explained by Kapila Muni to his mother Devabhuti. So I'll read the translation once more. After the mind, the moon appeared. Intelligence appeared next. And after intelligence, Lord Brahma appeared. Then the false ego appeared. And then Lord Shiva. And after the appearance of Lord Shiva came consciousness and the presiding deity of consciousness. So first the element is appearing, then the presiding deity who is controlling it is appearing. And so we see the progression from the mind all the way to consciousness. So these are all the subtle elements of material nature. So I've made a small graphic to illustrate the sequence of events and their presiding deities. So on the bottom, it's written the elements of material nature, the subtle elements. In the middle, we see pictures of the presiding deities of each of those elements and what each of those presiding deities and corresponding subtle elements represent and are in the mode of. So we start off with the expansion of the mind, the sixth sense. So when the mind comes to appearance, the presiding deity known as Chandra, or the moon, comes into appearance as well. Oftentimes, in my own knowledge, in my own experience, in Ayurveda, there is this concept of the moon being the calming energy and the sun being the fire energy, the 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 one of action, right? And so sometimes in Ayurvedic circles, they say to stand in the moon for some time to calm oneself, to align the body and mind. So the moon is in the mode of goodness. So it starts off with the moon providing goodness to the mind. Another layer above the mind is the intelligence. Once the moon and the mind have come to appearance in the mode of goodness, intelligence appears. Intelligence is the force by which we use to inquire about Krishna, to make plans about our material life and our spiritual life from all areas, physical, emotional, mental, relationships, financial, everything. So then the intelligence comes to appearance. The presiding deity of that intelligence is the god of speech, or Brahma. So Brahma represents the mode of passion, so the action to move things forward, whether it be spiritually or materially. Then, upon the appearance of intelligence and Lord Brahma representing the mode of passion, and then we have the appearance of false ego, or the false identification of the identity of oneself with the body. So when false ego appears, the presiding deity of false ego, or Lord Shiva, also appears. And Lord Shiva is the presiding deity of the mode of ignorance. I think one thing to note here is that by mentioning that Lord Shiva is the representative deity of the mode of ignorance, we can't say that, at least as devotees, we cannot say that Lord Shiva is within or covered by the mode of ignorance, or Lord Brahma is covered by the mode of passion. So I do want to make that distinction, that they are the presiding deities of false ego and intelligence, respectively. Once the false ego, or the ignorance, the darkness, the not knowing, the not understanding of the soul being the true identity comes into existence, consciousness comes into the existence. Our ability to think and to act and to give life to our mind, intelligence, and false ego comes into being. So one important point to note here is that the consciousness doesn't come after the mind or the intelligence. It comes after the false ego. And so Lord Srila Prabhupada makes this point that consciousness is born out of ignorance, or the false ego, after it comes into the existence. So in the material nature, the soul is born in ignorance. And through the purificatory process, as mentioned in the purport of Krishna consciousness, of spiritual realization, of self-realization, one can overcome the ignorance, passion, and goodness that cover the layers of consciousness. And the presiding deity of consciousness in the verse, I'll pull it up. Their name is Chaitya, the deity presiding over consciousness. So once all of these come into being, we have all the subtle elements, as well as consciousness come into being. There is a metaphor I'm very fond of in the Srimad Bhagavatam that compares all of that we experience in the material world to be like a dream. I'm sure some of you have also woken up from a dream. I also dreamt last night as well. Um, I have some big decisions pending in my material life. So all of those big decisions came into my dream, and I was thinking and I was meditating, and in my dream, I was making those decisions. And so this material world is compared to a dream. Everything we do, we are awake now, but we are not really awake. Um, we are we're within a dream. We are acting within a dream. And so within the fourth canto, it's explained how all that we are acting, all that we are doing is a dream within a dream. And it's explained that this is the secret of all Vedic literature, is that everything we do in this material world is simply in a dream-like state, right? In a dream, when you're dreaming, you do many things. Maybe you're flying, maybe um, maybe you're swimming deep in the sea, maybe you are running from a monster. All of these things can happen in dreams. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's written that these dreams are actually reflections of past or previous lives. So everything that we think um, is very interesting. All of our subtle elements, whatever we think, you've heard this in like positive psychology sources, what you think becomes what you say becomes what you act, what you act becomes your habits. On a very spiritual and metaphysical level, this is true. Every word we think, every word we say, every thought we think becomes a seed, becomes a samskara for something previously, or maybe a samskara for something that has happened in the past. Maybe you were flying in your last life in Siddhaloka or somewhere else. Maybe you were swimming deep in the sea as a different species of life. Maybe you were running from a monster, or you will be running from some other type of monster in the real world. So all of these subtle elements are the birthplace of our reality. This dreamlike reality that we are listening to. And Srila Prabhupada continuously makes this metaphor that the devotee, that awakening from this dream is Krishna consciousness, is self-realization, right? Maybe you've heard this. I'm not sure. When I was younger, um, someone told me that when you're in your dream and you're in a nightmare and you want to wake up, you can try to find a clock. Try to find a clock in the room. And because most dreams, they don't have clocks because they don't have the concept of time. So they look around, and if they don't see a clock, they know that they're in a dream. They look for the time in their dream. And I wanted to relate this to the experience of waking up from the dream of material nature, waking up from the false identification of the body, waking up from all of the things that we define ourselves by, and into stepping into the true reality as spirit souls, as those with a loving relationship with Krishna and his devotees. It's a very big step, and not one. And I will say it's not really a step, it's a habit, right? It's every day we wake up and we must make the choice that Do we want to live our lives today with false identification with the body, or do we want to live it with by being Krishna servants in the actual reality? So it's a habit we must make every day, and that we make by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, by listening to other devotees, by chanting. And what is that like to wake up from that reality, wake up from that dream-like reality? What are the steps needed to be taken? So Srila Prabhupada makes that a very important point. One second. Srila Prabhupada makes a very important point in this particular purport. I'll maybe read it once more. Lord Chaitanya confirms this in his Shikshashtaka. He states that the first result of chanting the Mahamantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is that dirt is cleared from the consciousness or the mirror of the mind, and then at once the blazing fire of material existence is over. So Srila Prabhupada points out this one very specific way why we can wake up from this dreamlike reality is by chanting, is by spending time with Krishna, spending time with that reality, that absolute reality, the absolute truth, by chanting his name. Anyway, it's explained in this particular verse, or in the Shikshashtaka that Srila Prabhupada references to. I'll read the translation. Glory to Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtana movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. So this is such a beautiful verse. And I want to focus on 2 to 3 things that are being said in this verse. One is that the mind is compared to a mirror within this verse, and the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is cleansing the heart of all of the samskaras we may have, all of the impressions we may have, all of the ideas we may have that tie us to this body and free us from our ties to the modes of ignorance, passion, and goodness. And it's also another effect of it is it extinguishes the fire of conditional life. It spreads the rays of the benediction moon. So we have references to the moon within this verse, but Srila Prabhupada makes another reference to the moon in this verse, in reference to Gora Chandra. And I believe I'll be the next biggest festival for devotees in this year is Nitai's appearance day, Nityananda Trayodasi, and Gora Purnima in March. So I want to take a moment to read how Srila Prabhupada glorifies Gora Chandra. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared on the full moon day as Gora Chandra, or the spotless transcendental moon. The material moon has spots on it, but on the transcendental moon, Gora Chandra, there are no spots. In order to fix the purified mind in the service of the Supreme Lord, one has to worship the spotless moon, Gora Chandra. So here, Srila Prabhupada is appreciating Gora Chandra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as being a moon with no spots, right? So even though the moon is in the mode of goodness, still as it is in the material mode of nature, there are spots on it. It's not perfect, right? Even though it's very, very beautiful. So the spotless transcendental moon of Gaura Chandra is so much more beautiful than the material moon. And to be captured by it, and to focus on it, to serve it, is to worship that spotless moon of Gaura Chandra, will help us alleviate the ties we have with material nature. The last thing I want to focus on in this Shikshashtakam verse is that it increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. I'm not sure about all of you, but I know for myself that I feel very anxious many times, maybe a lot, maybe very often. I'm sure you do as well, about what is happening next. Today the weather isn't so good in the Northeast. What are our plans? We're anxious. I know one of my coworkers had their basement flooded the other day. So there's uncertainty at every step. Padam padam vipadam. In every step there is there's something crazy that could happen. And this uncertainty, this fear, keeps us trapped to this material world. And it increases our anxiety to so many levels. But by taking some time out of our day, by chanting, by engaging in Sankirtan, by engaging in japa, we are able to immerse ourselves in a nectar that we seek, that we try to fill with so many other things in our material life. So I wanted to make that last point about the Shikshashtaka, and I'll end our discussion here. If there are any questions or comments, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, thank you so much and have a very happy day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Surabhi. Please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for the class. My question is related to consciousness. Now, consciousness, as we understand, is the symptom of the soul. So it's understandable that mind, intelligence, and false ego are material elements. But when we say the appearance of consciousness, that means how can a consciousness appear in absence of a soul? So did the soul also come along with the consciousness?
You are correct in saying, and also I have to admit that everything, all my basics of Krishna consciousness come from you, so I'm not really sure I can answer. But you are right in saying that Amritananda Prabhu is my Sunday school teacher when I was younger. Consciousness is the symptom of the soul. I wonder, I'm sure maybe there are other Bhagavatam speakers that could share if the soul came before or after this verse. I don't have that foresight. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Amritananda Prabhu, you are also asking to check me, but I'm not sure if maybe you also have some idea about this.
No, Mata, I don't know for sure, but I was just trying to understand when this material creation comes into being, or manifests rather.
Yeah.
Then, and also that he looks and through the glance impregnates all the jivas into Prakriti.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to understand the sequence.
Yeah, no, that's very valid. Um,
That's okay. We'll put it in the Bhagavad Sevaya.
very good. Yeah.
Devotee may find an answer. Thanks all the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Amritananda Prabhu, for asking.
Thank you. We'd like to wish everybody a safe and Krishna conscious day and weekend ahead. I would like to offer our prayers to the Supreme Lord by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna,
Hare
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Nrsimha Jai Nrsimha Jai Jai Nrsimha Praladesha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringam Ugra Veera Mahavishnu
Graveram Mahavishnu Jayantam.
Nrsimham Vishnu Bhadram
Narsimham
Vidyam
Vishnu
Sivamayam
Mrityu Mrityu Namamyam.
Nrsimha Bhagwan ki Jai
Ki
Prahlad
Jai,
Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
Let's offer our humble obeisances to all the Samal Vaishnavas,
Vanchakalpatarubhasya Kripasindhavaveta.
Patitanam Pavanave Vaishnaveyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namaha Vaishnavinda ki Jai.
Ki Jai,
Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Ki
Jai.
Jai,
Srila Prabhupada ki
Ki
Jai.
Jai.
Lord Premanande.
Hari 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 Bol.
Also, this weekend is of special festivities. It's the last weekend before this historic inauguration of the Ram Mandir in Ayodhya. So, we are continuing our series of Ramayana, lessons learned from Ramayana in the evening from 7 to 8. Also, we'll be having Nagar Sankirtan tomorrow afternoon, if the weather permits, at Apna Complex at noon. Please try to make it. More numbers we have, better it is, to spread the glories of Lord Ramachandra. And then Sunday, well, tomorrow also we'll be having Ayodhya special items which are popular in Ayodhya, Govinda's buffet from 12 to 3. And then on Sunday, we'll be having our Sunday program from 5:30 p.m. to midnight with extended kirtan. And we'll be having a live telecast of the proceedings in Ayodhya. So please mark this as a special weekend in your life to bring Ram Rajya, establishment of Lord Ramachandra back in Ayodhya. Hare Krishna. Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, then we'll see you today evening. Hare Hare.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna, Hare Bol.
everybody. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.